cigar and his baseball bat, and he says, everybody can talk trash when you're up. Can you talk trash when you're down? Well, our friend Jake Gallagher put a literal spin on that old saying, because anybody can be cool once they do something that is cool. But can you be cool when nothing is happening at all? So shout out to Jake Gallagher, teaching us all how to live our life with a little more panache, a little more flair, a little more joy in life. Well done, Jake.
All right, I just want to give a shout out to my colleagues on and off the air at FS1. 1 year ago today, I got a phone call from one of our bosses that we couldn't go into work tomorrow because the NBA was shut down, the world was shutting down, and we didn't know what was going to happen. From that moment forward, we have missed 1 week of this television show. Kevin Wildes had only been on the show for a few weeks. He all of a sudden's like, hey, you're new to being on television. Now do it from your house. Jenna has to do it from her house. We're like, hey, Brandon Marshall, have you met Kevin Wildes yet? Nope. Well, now you're doing a show with him. You're going to be added to the show. Our producers left work one day, have not been back in the building. Our bosses in LA got us back on the air 9 days after this happened. We haven't missed since. And so I know this has been a tumultuous, brutal year for so many reasons. One of the few bright spots for me personally has been being able to continue doing this show throughout all of it. So for all the folks on the show and off the show over the last year, thank you all for the work you've put in to keep us on the air. It's been a wild success, in my opinion. I greatly appreciate it from all you guys and all the producers and executives.
So good.
Thanks, you guys.
So good.
Well said, Nick.
So
well
good.
said. I think we all echo that. Let's play a little drawing a blank right now. So yesterday, Dak Prescott officially put pen to paper, and then as we all do after signing something, he sat down for 75,000 questions from the media. Brandon, Dak's press conference yesterday was blank.
It's the right thing for so many different reasons. I mean, come on, were you guys really going to break this up? You went out there and drafted this kid with the 135th pick in the 4th round in 2016. And he lit up the league when Tony Romo went down. Then there was a down year, sophomore slump. And since then, he has shown you who he was, and he was more than capable of carrying the torch and being the face of this historic franchise. So I'm just great that they did this in a way where the relationships weren't broken. This is great for Dak. This is great for Jerry Jones. This is great for the NFL. This is what we want to see. We want to see homegrown talent. So great job to the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones and Dak Prescott and getting this deal done.
Wildes, I might have been a little too literal on this question because I said Dak Prescott's press conference yesterday was what Dallas does best. And I mean the literal press conference. Everything about it looked perfect. They looked like the marquee franchise in the league, and they looked like why they are America's team. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, over the last 25 years, press conferences are literally what they've done best as opposed to success on the field. Dak hopes to change that, but it wasn't via Zoom, and Dak was wearing what I imagine is a $2,500 perfectly tailored sport coat.
Agree.
Jerry was ecstatic. Everything about it looked A++ first class, and this is the stuff that Dallas does great, and hopefully it translates for them.
I totally agree with you. It felt like a world-class sort of organization in a world-class performance from the franchise quarterback of the Cowboys. Now, I put textbook. I'm not saying that the Detroit Lions, who sent up their coach with a decent suit on and talked about eating his opponent's kneecaps, isn't the way to go. But you're going to have a lot of press conferences throughout the year after every game. Take a look at Dallas's press conference yesterday. Take some tips. Also, Eagles, same thing. You know, like, hey, we're going to make it so hard, it's going to be simple, or so simple, it's going to be easy. Just take a lesson. No eating kneecaps. Just put on a nice suit. Be like Dak Prescott.
Setting an example out there in Dallas. On to New England now, where the Patriots are reportedly receiving trade calls for N'Keal Harry. Feels like there's going to be a lot of moving parts in New England this offseason. Brandon, the Pats fielding N'Keal Harry trade calls is blank.
This is Bill Belichick throwing in the towel. I mean, look at his track record as a general manager, drafting at this position, the wide receiver position and the tight end position, since 2013. It's not good. All these guys, Wiles, I know this is your team, but can you tell me where these guys are now and what happened? Combined for 144 receptions. Didn't Mike Thomas have that in 1 year? 2 years ago? Okay. Michael Thomas down in New Orleans? This is bad. Okay. And everybody laughed at me. Everybody said, Brandon, what are you saying? Halfway through the year, when the Patriots started to slide, and I said, let's start talking about Bill Belichick, the general manager. It doesn't matter if you have Cam Newton, doesn't matter if you have Stidham, and I don't care if you bring in Marcus Mariota. If you don't have guys around that can help you and get the job done, then you're not going to have a winning season. This is Bill Belichick throwing in the towel.
I think that's all accurate. I also think fielding N'Keal Harry trade calls is smart. Listen, one of the biggest mistakes in sports is not understanding the sunk cost fallacy. It's one of the biggest mistakes in life. You ever go to dinner with somebody and they're clearly full and they're still eating? You're like, what are you doing? It's like, well, got to get my money's worth. What are you doing tonight? Oh, my God. I'm going to this play. I'm so mad I bought the tickets. You already bought the tickets. You already paid for the food. Now do what makes you happy. You already wasted a first-round pick on N'Keal Harry. Get back what you can. One thing that the Patriots understand better than most teams in sports is the sunk cost fallacy, and they don't allow it to make them double down on bad decisions. But everything Brandon said is correct about their inability to draft this position, Wiles.
Yeah, it was the first time that Belichick drafted a wide receiver in the first round, and it's probably going to be the last. And Brandon, I think you bring up an interesting point. Like, maybe that's just a blind spot for him. He's good at finding little diamonds in the rough, like Hall of Famer Julian Edelman, but he's not great at trying to find like a nice premier wide receiver target. The good news for N'Keal Harry is Cam Newton was very high on him, and your buddy Ocho Cinco the other day tweeted out, like, what weren't you good at? He's like, being wide receiver for the Patriots. So maybe it is a little bit of just doesn't fit with the scheme, a la Ocho Cinco. Hope N'Keal Harry has success, but it's probably not going to be in New England.
Nick, I bought, and I hated Bikram, but I bought a pack of 30, and I felt like I had it to go every day for a month, and it was brutal. I didn't know about the sunk cost fallacy thing. I'm never doing that again. On to Chicago, Nair. According to a report, the Bears are desperate for a quarterback. It was truly awful. It was a 90-minute class. It was so hot. Never doing that again, but I bought so many of them. You might be ready to unload a truckload to get a Russell Wilson. Didn't say that in the brochure. I got to read this. Listen, according to a report, the Bears are desperate for a quarterback. They might be ready to unload a truckload, a ton, to get a Russell Wilson, even a Deshaun Watson, maybe. They clearly need someone. Hey, Brandon, Bikram aside, hot yoga as well. The team that should be most desperate to trade for Russ or Deshaun is blank.
You just mentioned them, the Chicago Bears. I mean, when you look at Trubisky and Foles, they're at the bottom of the league in every quarterback category. Hell, they had one game where they threw for over 300 yards. They need to make a move here. They need a face of the franchise. They need to get this franchise back where it belongs. I was there, Miss Virginia McCaskey. She set the tone every single day. She's 98 years of age. And we didn't talk about it publicly, but we knew from George McCaskey on down, her son, who now runs the team, we knew that they wanted her to go out with the win, holding up that Lombardi trophy. If you don't understand the history of the National Football League, you got to look it up. But a lot of it runs through Chicago and Mr. George Halas, her father. So they want to get this done. So they are the most desperate team. And we know they've already reached out. They've already told Russ, we'll give you whatever you wanted, whatever you need, and we'll give you the keys. What type of decisions do you want to make? So the answer is the Chicago Bears.
I think the Bears are desperate. I think there's a team that at least should be more desperate, and that's Denver. Listen, Bronco fans, people think Bills fans hate me. Bronco fans really hate me. And last year, I had the audacity to say the Broncos were going to go 4-12. And oh my God, you should have heard the terribly produced podcast that took issue with that. Well, I was wrong. They went 5-11. But when you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and by the way, the Raiders might end up with Russell Wilson, you can't be trotting Drew Lock out there. Denver has gotten quarterback right once post-John Elway, and it was when Peyton Manning opted to go there. They have not been able to draft this position, so trade for this position if you want any chance of competing with Mahomes, Herbert, and if the Raiders end up getting one of these guys themselves. So it's Denver, Wilds.
Brandon, you know, T.O. says get your popcorn ready. Get your helmet ready, buddy. I'm going to go with the Jets here. AFC East open now. My poor Patriots don't know what they're doing. The Dolphins don't quite know what they're doing. They don't believe in Tua. They're putting Fitzmagic in every time. And whether or not you believe in Josh Allen, I don't know if he's going to run the league for 20 years like Tom Brady did. So I would say the Jets have a real chance here. New coach. They've got a little promise after, you know, flirting with going, you know, a full 0-16. I think the Jets should give everything they got, try to get Russ there or try to get Deshaun, and try to give Sam Darnold a fresh start somewhere else.